Hello and welcome to episode 5 of People with Issues. This week I'm delighted to have as my guest Peter from Newcastle upon Tyne in England. Peter is also the host of a YouTube channel that's been running for some 4 years, Triple G Comics. So if you're not familiar with that, check it out via the link in the description after you've finished watching our chat, of course. Plenty of great conversation with Peter. I had a whale of a time recording with him. So without further ado, enjoy listening to and watching Peter, and I will catch you at the end. Peter, hi. Thanks very much for joining me this morning. How are things in beautiful Newcastle?
Freezing, absolutely freezing. But never mind, never mind. I'm over the moon to be here, Paul, talking comic books, which is one of my favourite subjects. So
Comic
excited about
books.
this.
Awesome, thank you. I'll mention this in the introduction, but I'm not entirely sure. People are watching my videos, which is great. I'm not entirely sure where they're all coming from. So,
Yeah.
just in case anyone's unfamiliar with Peter and Triple G Comics, which initially I confess I kept looking at and I kept hearing Trip Leg. I don't know. So, just a guy from Trip Leg Comics, but
Yeah. I get
yeah,
confused with the wrestler as well. There's a Triple H, I believe. But yeah. I'm not
Triple
him.
A.
I'm not the wrestler. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, in the last few weeks, while I've been sort of trying to get recordings done of people with issues, which has been a blast, I've fallen behind on my viewing. So I've got quite a lot to catch up on your channel. But if I just briefly touch on it, and you keep me right if I'm misrepresenting you.
Yeah, sure.
Peter's channel, and was that about 4 years it's been running?
Yeah, about 3, 4 years. Just during COVID. So yeah, about 4 years.
Cool. So what I've been able to do, unfortunately, the live stuff that you do, I was able to only the other night. I was able to nip in and join a thing you were doing, and I was only on for about 5 minutes. So time enough for you to say hello and give the
Yeah.
channel a shout out, which God bless you. And I felt bad about having to
Oh, no, not at
log
all.
off
Yeah.
after it. But yeah, so what I'm seeing in the list, and I've only seen a couple of things so far. Everything's fun. It's great fun, and you obviously know some fantastic people.
Yeah.
But what I've seen is a big mix of reviews. There's, I think, features and critiques on some items. There's
Yeah.
bits where you're out and about places, and you sort of do a bit of filming and report back and art. So it's really quite a broad range of stuff.
Yeah, to be honest, it started off back in the day as very much an unboxing channel. So
Uh-huh.
I've bought this, look at what I've got kind of thing. Because to be quite frank, Paul, nobody in my family was interested. So I wanted somebody to say, that's nice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I started off doing that. And then over the course of 4 years, it's become very eclectic. So I do comic book reviews. I do
Hmm.
pickups, what I've been buying. I do visits to conventions and things like that. I do movie reviews, superhero type movie reviews.
Yeah.
I do a lot of action figure stuff now. I'm getting into vintage action figures and 1/6 scale action figures. And then the lifeblood for me, the bit that I get my energy from, is the live shows. And that's literally just a group of lads. It's very much like if I was to go down the pub with a group of lads and we're just
Yeah.
chatting about stuff, And it starts off, pretty much all of the live shows start off with a focus on comic books, movie reviews, toy reviews, all that kind of stuff. But invariably we're getting into just weird stuff, like quite often food related things. What's the ultimate cooked breakfast? Stuff like that, which is a bit left field. But the people who watch it seem to enjoy that side of things. So, and that's where I get my energy. I love the interaction with the comments and with the guys I have on stream and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it, especially. I mean, at the moment, I literally know more collectors in the US and Canada than I do in the UK. So it's been really
Yeah,
nice to kind of get to chat with some UK guys. But importantly, as well, because of the time difference, I was quite excited to see. Oh, there's some live stuff here. I'm actually going to be able to tune into.
yeah.
Which is nice because it's not quite the same when you're watching the catch up the next day.
Yeah,
So look forward to
it's
that.
it's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously the US is such a massive market, but there's not a lot of us UK based comic book YouTubers, I don't think, and there's certainly not many live shows.
Okay, so comics, comic books, and comic collecting. Do you want to take us back? You used the phrase there, back in the day, which sounds fantastic, especially in your accent. Say it again.
Back in the day.
Back in the day.
Back in the day, man.
Magic, love it. Yeah, just give us a sort of a brief overview of what it was. How did you get into comics? What was your first sort of experience of them?
I mean, that's a really hard question, Paul, to be honest, because I mean, I don't know what you're like, but a lot of my memories kind of meld into one now. So I was trying to think of what the first comic I read was, and I've actually, a lot of my collection is based on nostalgia. As I hit a certain age, I wanted to go back and re-experience some of the stuff. So the things that I think were my first comics, I've been back and picked up, you know.
Oh wow, yeah.
But certainly when I try and think of my first interaction or first experience of comics, it's probably stuff like this. I don't know if you've seen these before. You ever had one of these?
What, Masters of the Universe.
These are incredible. So these are comic books,
Yeah.
but these were packaged in with the original Masters of the Universe action figures.
Oh wow.
So I think that's one of my first memories of reading a comic, was buying a He-Man action figure and getting one of these little beauties in the package with the toy. Now it's not like what we would class as a traditional comic. It's more like a storybook, you know. But certainly, I think that's the first time I can really remember being excited about a comic. And then again, I don't know if I don't know if they still do it, but back when I was at school on a rainy day, everybody got pushed inside the classroom.
Yes.
And there was always a box of colouring in for you to play with, or a box of Lego or whatever. But in my school, there was a box of toys and comics.
All right.
And a lot of them were tattered old comics. And I remember reading this. I remember being obsessed with this comic, and it was, you know, ripped to shreds. Not a book that I really got into, I don't think, Legion of Superheroes, but this was a one that I used to go to and pick up and flick through every time it was raining, you know. Couldn't tell you much about the book. I went back to get it. It's not a comic I read now, Legion of Superheroes, but I've got lots of memories of this particular cover and reading that one. So yeah, that's a school day one. But then from then on, probably my biggest impact from comics, because again, I don't know what it was like where you were, Paul, but we got very few American comic books at the newsagents. It was all UK reprints. But I picked up an awful lot of like UK version comic books. And again, I've gone back and bought all these. So, you know, your Secret Wars, I remember reading as a kid. Visionaries was a favourite of mine. Mad Balls, one of my favourites. Supernaturals, obviously, big favourite. And then, of course, the big hitters like Thundercats and things like that. But again, all in the UK kind of format comic book, you know?
Yeah.
But certainly Secret Wars was my first big kind of passion. Got the comic book and then went on to get things like the sticker album and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. So this is what sort of early to mid 80s.
Yeah. This I think was kind of my first introduction to certainly the comic books of the Marvel universe, and I absolutely fell in love with this particular book. Around the same time, I think the Spider-Man TV show was on, and I became a little bit obsessive with these guys, and that was kind of the introduction, I guess you would say, to UK comics and then into American comic books. I remember as well very vividly that a lot of my comic book knowledge and stuff came from my dad. So my dad was a comic book collector. I don't want to say collector, because collector sometimes it's got a negative connotation. He was a comic book reader back when kind of some of the, you know, your first X-Men's came out and things like that. And he used to buy the comics, read them, and then he would take them to school and get kids to give him I don't know whatever the money was back then, a couple of pennies or whatever.
Yeah.
He would basically rent out the comic for people to read. So he got me into comics. He was telling me all the stories and things like that. And so I've got a lot of memories of my dad sitting reading comic book with us and telling us who the characters are and things like that.
That's really interesting because it never occurred to me. But I mean, again, it's not like I've done hundreds of episodes yet. But even so, the people I've spoken to so far, or people I've chatted with away from doing episodes, no one's actually. I've not heard anyone mention, their dad or a parent getting them into comics, what have you. They might be inadvertently responsible for them, giving them the money for their first one or something like that, some special memories. But no one who's actually said, "Oh yeah, one of my parents was really sort of into comics in their day."
Oh
So
yeah, absolutely,
yes,
absolutely. I mean, my dad was into comic books. He was into Star Trek, which is a big passion of mine. All that kind of stuff. And I've got a lot of memories of when I was younger, lying in bed and him reading books to us, reading annuals and things like that. Yeah,
oh
happy days.
fantastic. But he didn't have a box in the cupboard full of AS
No,
50.
no, unfortunately not. One of the things we talked about a lot, and used to be many an interesting conversation, was if he'd held on to some of those original comics, they would have been worth an awful lot, because he was literally collecting when it was kind of the all the first Marvel books were coming
Yeah.
out, your Avengers and your Fantastic Fours, and he most likely had all of them. He was more of a DC guy, but he probably had them back in the day.
Okay. Okay. So when you were first getting into it with these the books you showed us, like the Masters of the Universe
Yeah.
and stuff like that, were there any sort of particular titles or characters that really grabbed you at the time? Who were your first sort of favourites?
So my favourites have always been some of the cartoon toy lines, so Transformers and Thundercats, He-Man, all that kind of stuff. But from
Uh-huh.
a comic book world, I was always more inclined to the what I would class as the more bright, colourful Marvel universe. DC always felt a little bit darker and a little bit more serious, whereas the Marvel universe was more my jam. Like I say, Secret Wars was absolutely up there. X-Men, loved a bit of X-Men. But my favourite character, and I don't know if it stems back from then or if it's developed over the years, but my favourite character has always been the Mighty Thor.
Oh,
I
right.
don't know why. I remember my mum and dad getting us an old VHS or Betamax video of the old Thor cartoon, which is horrendous. I don't know if you've ever gone back and watched it, but it had an incredible theme tune across the across the Rainbow Bridge of Asgard or something, and that always stuck with us. And I just liked the Shakespearean way they spoke and all that kind of stuff.
So is that carried through to today? Is Thor still your
It has,
boy?
yeah.
Yeah.
Thor's still the character I go to, but like most modern characters, he's had some dodgy runs. Some of the stories haven't been the best, but yeah, Thor's still my go to character. And I'm a bit of an outlier from some of my pals, and I don't know what your flavour of character is, but I'm an outlier in that a lot of people seem to gravitate towards your dark vigilantes and things like that. What I would class as your morally ambiguous characters.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because I'm a bit of a nerd, I've always been more drawn towards the more moralistic characters. I love Superman, Captain America, Optimus Prime. In my mind, a comic book character or hero should be someone that inspires you to be better. So that tends to be the character I'm drawn towards more, the natural leaders and things like that. I enjoy that
Yeah.
character more than, say, your Wolverine or something like that.
I would say thank you for answering a question that I probably wouldn't have asked, but it's something I'm going to consider getting into with other people to pick. And that really for me, we have limited time for these
Yeah,
episodes, and there's a lot to talk about. But that sort of background, the why things trigger differently for different people, I find that
yeah,
absolutely fascinating. Especially, I think Silver Age stuff Stan Lee was written. It's very much about
yeah, absolutely.
justice and the good guys and stuff like that, which I like to think had a positive effect. But
Oh, I think absolutely. I mean, if you look at some of Stan's original work, I mean, Fantastic Four is literally just about the importance of family,
yeah,
about a cohesive family group. X-Men is all about, I mean, X-Men's so relevant today as it was back then. It's about bigotry and about, all that kind of stuff. But for me, I absolutely think who I am has been formed by reading those kind of comic books. And I have to give a big tip of the hat to good old Jean-Luc Picard from Star Trek TNG.
Okay.
All of his moralistic everything about him kind of formed in my mind what it is to be a good person, a relevant. But do you know what I mean?
So you will you sort of mentioned you're a movie, obviously a movie fan as well, and you do movie reviews and all that. You're one of these people that can read something, can watch a movie, what have you, and you might hear a line, and maybe, it doesn't matter who the line's delivered by or what the circumstances are. It was written by somebody in a room hunched over a keyboard writing a script. But
Yeah.
I bet you pick lines out of things and you stop and think about them, and some of them resonate and
Oh, absolutely.
transfer
Absolutely.
into your yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Jean-Luc Picard. I'm probably this in this. I'm probably the same with Yoda,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
though
Yeah.
even though some of the Yoda quotes trip off the tongue and they're very popular and they're used tongue in cheek. But there's been times where I sort of heard one and went, actually, that's a really good point.
And that's what I mean. You mentioned the Bible there. I'm not particularly religious, but the Bible, comic books, movies, that's what it is. It's a blueprint for, it's stories that we're supposed to take something from and learn from,
Yeah,
which is why I tend to go to that more than see your characters like, I don't know, the Punisher or Wolverine. Not that there's anything wrong with those characters. I still enjoy the story, but
yeah.
I don't take anything away from that in, that's a good way to behave or anything like that. Do you know what I mean?
That's absolutely fascinating. I love that. So, coming on to well, bring us right up to date because I know we've got a lot to look at.
Yeah.
Right now, give us a sense of your collection. What's it roughly made up of, and if you want to share how many books there are.
Yeah, sure. So I've gone through, again, probably like many of us, I've gone through a couple of different collections over the years.
Hmm.
Um, excuse me. I had my original collection, and then when my children came along 20 years ago, we decided we needed the space that the comics were in, but
Yeah.
also, to be quite honest, we needed the money. So I sold my entire collection, everything I owned.
Hmm.
And I went without reading comics or buying comics for maybe about 5 or 10 years. It was a good period where I still watched the medium, the TV, the films and stuff like that, but I didn't purchase anything. And then when I picked it back up, I decided quite early on that I wasn't going to be a run collector. So there's different flavors of collector. There are people
Yes.
who've got to have an entire run. That's just not me. That's not me. I focused on what I was reading, but then also key first appearances. I have and again, I can't explain it. It's one of these collectors things I can't really explain. I enjoy having the first appearance of some of my favourite characters. So I did that for a few years, just comic books. I then kind of developed that into going for big keys, and I tried to pick up as many of the signed books signed by
Okay.
Stan Lee, things like that.
Yeah.
I then moved into nostalgia collecting, so going back and buying books I had or books that were relevant to properties I had. I then moved into vintage toys, and you see behind us there, I've got a lot of figures that I collected and played with as a kid. That then moved on to 1/6 scale action figures. Are you familiar with 1/6 scale?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so things like this. 1/6 scale Michael Keaton Batman. Again, always relevant to movies and things like that I remember as a kid.
Absolutely.
He's the best Batman,
Fantastic.
by the way.
Fantastic.
Just for a fight for your chat, Paul. He's the best Batman, Keaton. All right. I'm sure people will weigh in and say I'm wrong, but he's not. Keaton's the best. So then I collected all that kind of stuff. Over the recent couple of years, I've tried to dial it back a bit because the enemy of most collectors, as you'll know, is space, and
Yeah.
I'm running out of physical space. I've got 2 rooms now. The room I'm in now, which is my comic vintage room, and then a room downstairs, which is all of my 1/6 scale cabinets and things like that.
Yeah.
And what I've found, and again, I don't know how you read, but what I've found is that my reading style has changed. I still read regular books. I read a lot of them digitally. But if I particularly enjoy a series, I go for, you'll see them behind us here, these absolute editions.
Yes. Yeah.
That's my favourite way of reading because you won't have noticed, Paul, but I'm getting on in age. And I prefer the larger format book for my old eyes. I think you get the art style better. And it's a complete story. Again, I don't know what you're like. Can't be chewed with reading a book that's like I've got to read for the next 15 years anymore. I like a self-contained story, you know?
If it's something that piques my interest, I'll have a look at it and go, right, are the comics cheap enough to pick up? If it's something that's a little bit older, I'll maybe look for a compendium or trade paperback, get it and read it. And if I really, really like it, then I'll have a look at, can I pick up the comics and add them to the collection, you know?
So
And
that's interesting. So what I do is exactly that. And I'll go and I'll buy the digital, or I'll pick up the trade paperback,
yeah,
and I'll read it. And if I love it, if I fall in love with it, I go back and buy the first issue or the first appearance. So, for example, recently I picked up Supergirl for tomorrow. I think it's called Woman of Tomorrow. You know, that's going to be based on the next movie. Absolutely loved that story in trade paperback. So I've gone back and bought the issue 1. So I do that quite often. And again, I don't know why. That's just the collector in us. You know, I need to own the first copy, not just the trade. I need to own the first kind of appearance or whatever. Yeah. I went back and bought all of the Hulk versus Thor covers. So any cover, excuse me, any cover where it's a Hulk Thor fight, I've bought all of those, and I still now, if there's a Hulk versus Thor cover comes out, I buy it, and I've got a long box full of just those. At one point, I had them all on my wall behind us and all the rest of it, and they looked great, but I couldn't tell you why I do that. Some of them,
I completely see the sense in that. Yeah. I see, and I really love it, and it's like I say, it's breaking me away from. It's not that long ago. My collection really was just like big runs of stuff, or big runs with gaps. But now it's more of an eclectic mix, and I'm enjoying that. Yeah. So how many? Do you know how many Hulk versus Thor? Seriously, a long box.
Yeah, it's a long box full. Yeah. Because I go for all the variants as well. So I don't know how many, or 250 or something. I'm not sure. Wow. I mean, the other thing that my collection's done relatively recently, over the last, say, 3 years, is I've moved from normal comic books into comic art. So a lot of my friends collect original pages and things like that. I haven't gone down that route because, quite frankly, I haven't got the wall space for it. And something in my head says, if I'm buying a bit of original art, I want it on display, you know. So what I've done instead is I've gone down to commissioned comic book covers. You can get any number of blank variant comics now, and I love taking them to conventions and things and getting them drawn on, or getting an artist I like to draw as an image. And the truth is, again, depending on what kind of collector you are, there's not a lot of value in that, because unless you're a big name artist, you might be able to sell it on and make your money back. But most of the stuff I get are not huge artists, and I know that that'll never be able to be sold on unless someone really, really likes it. So it's an interesting element of the collection for me is absolutely personal, because it's not about this might go up in value, as you do with some collectibles, you know. This is literally for me because I like to look at it and I want to keep it, you know, which I quite enjoy.
And in most cases, you must be sort of getting the experience of having an interaction with the artist as well. Yeah. So, yeah, that's cool. And just before, I know the week before recording this episode, you were at the Thought Bubble festival. Is that the right word?
So it's an interesting one, Thought Bubble. It's in Harrogate. It goes on for about a week. So it's a full week's worth of different shows and things like that. The convention element is the Saturday and the Sunday. And it's not like, again, I don't know what you're like, Paul. I used to go to a lot of, when I was younger, comic fairs, which was normally in a church hall with a load of older guys selling long boxes of comics. And I loved that. Over the years, as, dare I say, comic books / media, movies have become more and more popular, it's become more pop culture, a lot of the conventions I go to now, you struggle to find a comic seller. It's all stuff that's not particularly of interest to me. Whereas Thought Bubble is purely comic book art and writers. There's not a lot of, again, comic sellers in terms of long boxes of comics. it's all people with self-published work or artists who are visiting or writers. So, you know, you get some big names there. James Tinian was there the year before. Simon Bisley was there. Garth Ennis. You know, big creators. And they're not there flogging the stuff. They're not there trying to sell you the next book. They're there just to have a chat and to sign your books if you want and to draw you a picture for free 9 times out of 10, you know.
Really?
Charlie Adler. You know Charlie Adler from Walking Dead? Guy who did The Walking Dead?
No, I'm not familiar with.
Very nice guy. He goes every single year. I mean, he must be worth a penny or two because of the residuals from Walking Dead and everything.
Yeah.
But he goes every year. Every year he sits himself at a table and just draws. So you just walk up to him and he just draws. And he says to you, chuck us a bit of money. He's got a charity, so give us a $5 or a $10 for your charity. And he'll just draw you a cover. And he'll just chat away with you. And you don't get that interaction very often with these, what we would class as, you know, big name superstars and things like that. So I love it for that reason. And I spend a lot of money.
Yeah, I'll bet. It's something you mentioned to me last week, and again, something I wasn't familiar with. I'll definitely have an eye on that for next year. Hopefully, by then I'll know a few more of you guys as well. Yeah. Have you got anything with you that you picked up from that? Because I saw last week you were sharing some pieces that looked awesome.
Yeah. So I've got a few to show off. So like I say, I go for the comic art covers. A lot of these people are working in the industry. Some of them aren't. Some of them are just producing their own work. This is a young lady called Silvia Calistano, Italian artist, who does us a few covers. So this is a Gravedigger. I like my horror stuff. She does a double-sided cover. So that's all hand-drawn. Just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Peter, did you pick that up already done? She didn't do that like on the day.
This one, I messaged her because I bought from her last year and loved her work. I messaged her a few months before the con, and she worked on. She did us 2 covers, but she worked on this one and it was there ready for us to pick up. This one was done at the day of the con. One of my favourite artists, Casey Parsons. So just as stunning. Keaton Batman.
That's Keaton.
Yeah. Look at the lips, the lips and the eyes. Casey did as a vampire as well.
Oh,
really
wow!
Like that one, hand painted. Dave Watcher, who does a few really good books at the moment, did as this. I mean, you'd be forgiven to think that's just a standard. You'd be forgiven for thinking that's just a printed cover, but it's all hand drawn.
I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, and then he did as a companion piece to that, which is that. So they're kind of working in the industry, guys, and then these guys are just as talented, but you know these guys. I think this was £10 or £20.
So what is that? Is that from someone who's not particularly working on a published?
Yeah, not that I know of. He goes to the cons and does a lot of conventions, sketches, and things like that.
Brilliant.
That's quite a nice one. The guy I get a commission from every year I go, Snarf. And then this guy is phenomenal. I got 3 books from this chap this year. This is a guy who used to do the Muppets comic book. And again, just beautiful work. Yeah, I love Roger. This guy, Roger Landridge. I just love his style. You know, the year before he did his Kermit the Frog as Thor. So then this year I knew I had to get an Avengers and I got a Justice League as well, obviously. And then and this is, like I say, you would be forgiven for thinking that's not just a proper printed comic book cover, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. And
sorry, this guy.
Sorry, go on.
So this guy does those obviously, but he's got a big sign at his table saying for children free sketches. So you know, he's just sat there all day long drawing pictures for nothing. And he's had to pay for his table, don't forget. So he's paid to go to the con, just doing it for the love of art and to make kids happy, which, I mean, you cannot beat that for me, you know?
No. Do you know sort of how many comic books you actually have?
Oh, I've never sat and counted. Like I say, I've really sized it down.
I don't want you to count them now.
Maybe 25 long boxes. Maybe 25 long boxes.
Okay.
So yeah, quite a few. I've got a lot of CGC books as well. A couple of hundred CGC books.
So you're not one for using an app or a spreadsheet or something to track everything.
I'm too lazy for that, Paul. I'm too. I wish I could.
Hmm.
But no, I haven't. I haven't done that. Like I say, my collection's quite. I had a huge collection, and then I've tried to narrow it down as much as I can for the space element more than anything. Two children, it's I haven't got a lot of physical space in the house, so I've tried to
Yeah.
narrow it down as best I can. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I wouldn't consider that as being lazy. I think it's more dependent on um, how good you are at recalling what you've actually got.
Yeah, yeah,
I have to, because my recall is terrible. I can be standing looking through a long box, hit some issues, and I mean, you look at the cover and you're like, now, do I know it because it's one that I've been looking for, or do I know it because it's one that I've got? And unfortunately, my recall is shocking. So,
So
but
those that watch my channel will know I'm exactly the same. I quite often will unbox something, and then I'll be in the process of unboxing it, and I look at it and I'll think, I've got this. I don't know why I've bought this. I've got this, or I'll forget I've bought it. That's quite a common thing on my channel. Unboxing something, and I'll be going, why the hell have I picked this up? I haven't got a clue why I bought this, but I have. So yeah, my memories. I'm very impulsive. I don't know what you're like, but I'm very impulsive.
well, I tell you what, particularly something I found out was no, I'm quite methodical, and if I because I largely pick up stuff off eBay or direct from a shop online because there aren't many comic shops near me. Um, as soon as I've ordered something or bought or won something, I go into my app and log that it's on
Yeah,
order and what it is and what have you. Kind of because I have to, but the first time, it's only recently I went on Whatnot for the first time,
it's dangerous.
and I bought. So there's a few channels I looked at, sort of came out of them, and when I found some good ones or identified sellers that I kind of knew from eBay or what have you, and I thought, oh no, their stuff's good and they're reliable, and it's very good at sort of sticking to kind of cheaper stuff just to
Yeah,
stick my toe in the water. But I found that I think the first one I bought half a dozen things, and the thing finished, and it was like watching it, sussing it out. It's like, all right, the money goes straight away, but then
yeah,
after that, there's no shipping, and you go, oh, that's quite cool. And job done, boom, really happy. And then about an hour after it, I was thinking, we went into my confirmation email, and it's like item 1, item 3, item 7. And we're like, what did I buy?
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't, I don't know what I bought. And in doing that, I think within a couple of days, I did buy the same comic twice. Marvel 2-in-1 Thing and the Ghost Rider.
Yeah, yeah.
So when the package arrived, I was like, I've got this. I was like, I'm going to have to be really careful when I'm on one of those things to
Yeah,
make a note of what I'm actually getting.
Whatnot's dangerous because it's so easy to just press bid. And I've got a couple of sellers on Whatnot that I trust implicitly, so I'd go to a lot. But you can spend a large sum of money just sitting on your phone, not really paying attention, watching TV, and just bidding away.
Is there a particular book with a cover? Yeah, it's this bit, the little segment we call cover love, because that's nice. Like I say, the book doesn't have to be significant in any particular way, but it's just got one of those covers that every time you look at it, you're like, makes you feel happy. You just think it's really cool.
Yeah,
Just always makes you feel good.
and I've kind of already showed this off, but what I'll say, this is one of my all-time favourite covers. I've got it in multiple formats. So I've got it in UK format, sticker format, American format, and I've got a load of homages as well. Art by Mike Zeck and John Beatty. I just don't think you can beat the original Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars cover. It's just
Boy.
an absolute classic. I just love everything about this cover. Alex Ross has done a superb version of this as well for a trade
Oh,
paperback.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I've got this particular one in a number of different formats, and like I say, I've tried to pick up as many of the homage covers as I possibly can. I just think I just think the artwork's stunning. This is for me proper comic book artwork. Do you know what I mean? This is, when I think of comics, this is the kind of imagery that springs to mind. I just love it. I absolutely love it.
and that as well, a great reason for choosing that book. But I think as well. So if that was one of the books you sort of pulled out for, your early involvement or getting into comics and what have you, I can totally see how, as a kid, when you've got to pick something off the rack, and it was the same with someone I was talking to the other day. One of the things that comes to mind is like that book's rammed with heroes. Look how
Yeah,
many
yeah,
heroes there are in it, or ones with multiple stories, or something like that, or an annual. You're like, I'm going to get more. There's more
yeah,
to explore in this one than a single individual title with one
yeah.
character on it. But
Absolutely.
I have to agree with you about the art on that one. That is beautiful. So, what about another one that I set you kind of something to think about was if, and it's totally hypothetical, if I gave you £100 to spend on a book tomorrow, what would you spend it on? So, what's kind of on that wish list?
I mean, that's very hard because a lot of my wish list now are books that are far beyond £100. I'd love a Fantastic Four one. Do you know what I mean? That's my at the moment my grail piece. But to be honest, if I had £100 in my pocket, it would probably be to go and pick up, like I've just showed you, pick up some original artwork or to pick up something like that. That would tend to be my go-to. If I could get Something Is Killing the Children issue number 1 for £100, but I don't think I could. I would put it towards that, perhaps. That's a big book. I think that's a book that's going to skyrocket in value over the next few months, to be honest. But it's a hard question, that one, Paul. Tell you what I'm going to do.
It,
I'm going to,
it is when you're the man who's got everything.
yeah.
You know what,
But I tell you what I'm going to do. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go, instead of something that, like adding that, because £100 is a lot of money. Something that I could buy now is that there is a new volume, an absolute edition. These books I've just been talking about. There's an
Mhm.
absolute edition which is about £80 for Superman Man of Steel by John Byrne, just being released, and I haven't got that one yet. That I would love. I would love that
Well,
to go with me absolutes.
there's absolutely nothing wrong with that as a
Yeah.
choice.
And
The
you're
fact
buying
it's
this for us. That's very kind of you. I appreciate that.
uh,
Yeah.
that's why I always make a point of doing the disclaimer first.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would probably go for that, mate. I'd probably go for that. Yeah. Truth is, and again, I don't know what your collecting habits are like. There's not a lot of monthly modern comics that I would rush to get these days. It tends to be some of the nicer first appearances and things. But I'm one of the, which is why I'm quite often keen to distinguish this term collector, because there's a lot of
Hmm.
collectors out there. I am a collector, absolutely, but I would always say first and foremost I'm a reader. I
Yeah.
enjoy the art form. I enjoy the written word. I love the stories. So if I had £100, it wouldn't necessarily be to go and buy something of value. It would be to buy something that I want to sit and I want to enjoy and read. And that would be, at the moment, that Superman, absolute Superman book.
One of the things I asked you to consider about, and again, this comes with another disclaimer. This is about. I might have to change the name of it because I've called it like an overrated book, a book that you think is overrated, and that's maybe kind of not quite right. I think it's just looking at a popular book that doesn't do it for you, and we're interested in why. We are not pouring hate on anything for any reason. So, did you come up with anything for that?
I, I did. And it, you kind of explaining it there is great because it's not overrated in terms of value. I think it's
Yeah,
about
yeah.
where it should be. But for me, it's just an overrated character, I guess, and that's Harley Quinn. So Batman Adventures 12.
Ah,
And
right.
I'll get a lot of grief for that from people. A bit like Venom. Bit like Venom. So I'm not a fan of bad guys who become good guys because they've become popular in the comic
Yeah,
scene and then are oversaturated everywhere. So,
right.
and I guess I'd use Deadpool as an example of that as well. I just don't get the Deadpool love, and he's in
Hmm.
everything at the moment. I love the movies, but the comic just isn't my style. And Harley Quinn's exactly the same. The style of writing, just not for me. And that's not to say that it's not for anybody else, because people love the character. I just don't understand it. I don't get the love for the character, personally.
Right.
You know? And I think there is, for me, something about overexposure as well. Particularly with someone like Venom. You know, everybody in the Marvel universe has got a Venom symbiote now, or he's in about 100 books. Mary Jane's Venom, what the... You know, so that overexposure, I think, sometimes lessens the character's impact for me.
I have to say I've seen a lot of that, looking at people reviewing new books and stuff, and I'm kind of like, what is this one of those? Back in my day, I guess you'd get, you know, every summer there'd be some massive crossover between the books. So yeah, I've managed to stay away from being too interested in those. So that so I'd understand that about the character. That particular issue, is that a title that was it sort of aimed at a younger market or something?
So Batman Adventures, Batman Adventures 12 was actually the comic book that was based on the animated cartoon, which is where Harley Quinn first appeared. So Harley Quinn first appeared in the animated cartoon. Then our official first appearance is Batman Adventures 12, and that's a pricey book these days. But that's not an in-continuity first appearance. So she didn't appear in the actual DC universe until a little bit later on. But Batman Adventures 12 is regarded as our first kind of official comic appearance, and it's a lot of money. It's a lot of... I've had again, this speaks to my impulsive nature. Even though I don't like the character, I've told you I collect first appearances, so I've bought her first appearance on 2 occasions. Most recently, I bought a 9.6 graded book maybe 6 months ago or something. And I was sitting looking at it a few weeks ago, and I thought, I don't even like you. I don't like it. Why have I got it in my collection? You know. So I did sell it. I sold it on eBay. But it's like, and that's part of the bit of my brain I have to try and switch off sometimes. Is that when I look at my first appearances, quite often I'm looking at them thinking I bought that because it's the first appearance, but actually I don't really care about the character. So at the moment, I'm going through a phase of thinning the collection again by saying, actually, if you don't mean anything to us, I don't want you in the collection. I'd rather spend that money on something else.
And that's another fascinating insight. I think my chat with Carl in episode 1, that came up as well. And it was, I think that was more geared towards if you're considering, you know, selling a chunk of what you've got or parting with stuff, sort of weighing up, you know, not just what did you pay for it or how much money do you need for it or something like that, but sort of what does it mean to you? Or, you know, if you're having to consider the space you've got, looking at stuff and going, well, you know, how valuable to me personally is having this comic in my collection. And I'm pleased, having pared down quite a bit. I've only got a couple of books, I think, that I've looked at recently and gone, not really sure, you know, what my thinking was when I bought this. Being part of a sub collection, that's fine. It's like, well, that it ticks a box. It's like, all right, it's a first edition, or it's got a train on it, or something like that. But I'll have ones of those as well, where it's kind of like, well, I don't care if it's got the entire LNER stock on the cover. It's not doing it for me. So no, I think we can quite understand that one. And I think the last sort of challenge I'd set you was if you got any weird books, so anything you think you can freak me out with, I'll be interested to see what you've come up with.
Maybe it's not freak you out. Well, I've got one book that you might not have seen or will ever see again, but I've got another one. How about Me Being Murdered? So this is a book called Sink by a good friend of mine, John Lee's, an artist called Alex Cormack, which is all about, it's based in Scotland, and there's these killer clowns that basically kidnap you in the back of a van, nail a nose to you and slice your face open and turn you into a clown. And Alex did this brilliant image of me being pulled into the back of the van and being clowned, which I absolutely love. Paul, I mean, I know you're a Scot, Paul, so this is a book you've absolutely got to check out, Sink by John Lee. It's superb. Absolutely
Well,
superb.
I think two things there. One is, I didn't have a chance to get a disclaimer in there to say to people, Peter's not going to be murdered live on the episode. But I think, yeah, when you're talking about nailing noses to people's and slicing their faces, you definitely. I'm going to give you one of these.
Yeah.
Just because I've not long had StreamYard, I'm enjoying playing with the media assets, but that definitely ticks the box. But I mean, having your own, having yourself involved in
Yeah.
that's definitely unique.
It's a favourite.
That's a win.
This next one is one that you probably won't see anywhere else, and it's a very standard Silver Surfer issue 16.
Yeah.
Lovely, lovely Mephisto cover there, and you'll spot that it's signed on the bottom there by Stan Lee, signed by
Oh yeah, on the bottom of the
on the
board.
board.
Yeah.
This is special because it's what's called a Stan Lee file copy. So you can see
Yes.
that on the label there, signed by Stan Lee. Sorry, the glare is very good. Stan Lee file copy. So basically, this was Stanley, when he was doing a lot of writing, obviously, had his personal library in his house, which were all of these file copies, which were reference material books. A lot of them were lost in a flood, and then a lot of them did get sent to CGC. There's very few of them which were actually signed by him as well. But this is a one of one, held in his own little hands. I like to think it's a book he's maybe flicked through at some point to get reference stuff from. But yeah, very hard to put a value on this. I've tried to find them on eBay and stuff like that, and you find very few of them, particularly the signed ones. So yeah, little bit of history.
That is very specific. A file copy and signed, and the book that it is as well. I like what you said there as well about it sort of generates an image of somebody actually doing something with the book or part of the book's journey.
Again, the nostalgia side of things, I went back and I want actors signing stuff. That means something. So I've got Batman the movie signed by Michael Keaton. Picked that up a little while ago. I've got Sarah Michelle Gellar Buffy. I've got a Linda Carter Wonder Woman.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Then my favourite is a Star Trek 1 signed by the Shat himself, William Shatner.
Oh really?
So, yeah, I love that.
Thinking about when you were getting into comics and getting used to all these characters and stuff like that, and we were talking about Mighty Thor is your favourite hero.
Yeah.
Are there any particular villains that you really liked, or you were scared of, or attracted to, or were you?
Yeah, I mean,
pretty much just stuck in the good guys.
No, I love a good bad guy. But I like your classic bad guys. I like your Dooms, Doctor Doom, stuff like that. Loki obviously is a Thor guy. Red Skull, because it's realistic. Do you know what I mean? He's quite terrifying in that element.
Yeah.
I really like the Red Skull. One of my favourites is the Absorbent Man. I don't know if you're familiar with the Absorbent Man.
Yes.
Just think his powers are fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So
And
I love that.
That Silver Age costume, like the stripy prison trousers and the ball and chain, what have you, absolutely amazing.
Superb. Love the records actually. Yeah, good bunch.
I think in that case, for the last challenge, we'll see if you had anything for this. I asked you to think about the one book that you'd save. So let's say, just for example, imagine if you will, you're having a bit of a party. Not many people, just a few guests. And you've told them you can have a +1 if what have you. And one of your leerier friends, who you were always a bit dubious about, rocks up, and their +1 is the Absorbing Man. He's in his stripy trousers. He's bare chested. He's got his ball and chain. And he's not being careful what he's doing with the ball and chain. You're concerned about this. You can see the entire collection getting destroyed. Yeah. You're thinking, I better pick a book, take it out to the shed, put it somewhere safe. What's the book going to be?
Well, I mean, first of all, that's a ridiculously hard question. Um, I've got a box full of what I would class as keys here to grab, and I'm gonna subvert your question, Paul, because I've got two hands. So I've got two hands, so I'm gonna grab two. One is an emotional book. I mentioned to you earlier about my dad and his kind of influence in me in comic collecting. My dad passed away 2 years ago, and I went and I got this book because this is the first appearance of Monel, which was my dad's favourite character. So this chap here in the red costume. So this is not a pricey book. It's got no real value, but it's got a hell of a lot of emotional value. So I would have to grab that one, I think, on the way out.
Understood.
And then, of course, you know, I mentioned it many a time. First appearance of Thor, Journey into Mystery, 82. I have to get that. I would have to grab that. And again, this isn't the most pricey book in my collection, but it's the one that means the most because it's my favourite character. But also, at the time, this was like the first mega key I picked up. And it was the start of kind of as stepping up my game, as it were, in terms of my collection. So yeah, that one's got a lot of significance and a lot of value. Like I say, I've got a lot more first appearances down below here that are probably more expensive than this. But this is a big one for me. First appearance of Thor, Journey into Mystery.
Well, I mean, look, both of those are fantastic. And it's with regret, really, I have to tell you that your Journey into Mystery's been smashed to bits because you're only allowed to save one, and you chose.
You're a harsh man. You're a harsh man. You're my favourite supervillain, Paul. You're my favourite.
I have got a white cat. She sits here and stuff. No, I mean, it's really sort of nice hearing about why both of those are so special, and we could spend hours talking about many more. But I think particularly, you know, nobody sort of wouldn't get on board with your first choice. Exactly why it's a superb choice. So, look, Peter, having covered a range of subjects and some great insights, I've come to the conclusion that you absolutely 100% have issues, my friend. And we're all the richer for you sharing them with us. So thanks very much for that. I'm very, very hopeful that we'll keep in touch and we can do some more stuff. It would be great to have you back for something at some point. To anybody else watching, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Please leave a comment, say hi to Peter in the comments. If so far you're not familiar with this channel, do get over and have a look. Remember to subscribe, because there really is a wide range of goodies to dip into there from the last 4 years. So Peter, you and I will catch up after this. For anyone else watching, I'll have a few words for you after the recording. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you very much, Paul. Really enjoyed it.
And there it is. Episode 5 is a wrap. Once again, the conversation ran a lot longer than what you've seen. Fascinating guy. Some great thoughts and insight into the how and why behind what he collects in his collection journey. Really interesting. Had a great time talking to him. Give a big shout out to Fuzzy Dunlop, who's been so supportive of the channel. Not just in watching the content and leaving nice comments and stuff like that, but Fuzzy's responsible for a couple of guests, Peter, and another recording that is yet to be released. So thanks very much, Fuzzy. It's massively appreciated. These guys have been fantastic to talk to. Please leave a comment, say hi to Peter, share your thoughts on anything you saw in the video, good, bad, or otherwise. So thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, stay groovy.